Hi, welcome to Storytime with Gigi. Today we're going to be reading another Disney friendship stories from this treasury of tales. Our story today is from The Fox and the Hound, called Friends No Matter What. One day, an old woman named Widow Tweed discovered an orphaned fox in her farmyard. She tried to pick him up by the scruff of his neck, but he was nimble and quick. "Oh, my," she cried. "You're a feisty little rascal, aren't you?" Widow Tweed decided that she couldn't just leave the baby fox all by himself, so she took him into her house and fed him from a bottle. "You're such a little toddler," she marveled. "Say, that's what I'm going to call you, Todd." So Todd happily became part of Widow Tweed's life, and she was glad to have someone to keep her company. Unfortunately, the fox had a habit of getting into mischief, for he was very curious and loved exploring the farm. One afternoon, he chased a butterfly right onto Amos Slade's property. Amos was a hard-nosed man with one thing on his mind: hunting. Even his trusty dog Chief had been trained for it. Amos had just brought home a new puppy named Copper. It was Chief's duty to look after the pup. Copper smelled something peculiar in the yard. He wondered what it could be. "Hey there, Copper," said Chief. "What are you sniffing at?" "Something I never smelled before, Chief," replied the pup, but he was determined to find out what the smell was. "The master isn't going to like you wandering off," warned Chief. "I won't get lost," Copper reassured him. "I can smell my way back." The puppy went into a hollow log. "What are you smelling?" a voice asked. It was Todd peering down at Copper from atop the log. The dog sniffed at Todd and realized he'd found the smell he'd been looking for. Todd introduced himself and explained that he was a fox. "I'm a hound dog," said Copper. The two played hide and seek. Copper followed his nose to find Todd wherever the fox hid. They had so much fun, they met the next day and played some more. "Copper, you're my best friend," Todd said as he tackled the dog a few days later. "And you're mine too, Todd," Copper replied, smiling. "And we'll always be friends forever, won't we?" asked Todd. "Yeah," agreed Copper. "Forever." However, Amos Slade had other plans for Copper, plans that involved hunting. Amos was furious that the pup kept wandering off. He wanted a dog that would obey him. So when Copper returned, Amos tied the hound to his doghouse. The next day, Todd waited for Copper, but he never showed up. The fox went looking for his friend. "Hey, Copper, why didn't you—" "Golly, you're all tied up," Todd exclaimed. He felt terrible. "We can play around here," Todd suggested. Curiously, the fox walked up to Chief, who was sleeping in his barrel. "Oh, don't go in there," Copper warned quietly. "He can get awful cranky." "Geez, he ever big," Todd exclaimed. Sniff, sniff. Even in his sleep, Chief knew the scent of a fox. "Ruh, ruh," barked Chief. He was awake. Frightened, Todd started to run away. Amos came out with his rifle and fired. Bang, bang. Luckily, Widow Tweed was driving by. Todd jumped on the back of her truck. Amos was mad as thunder. He went to Widow Tweed's house. "If I ever catch that fox on my property again, I'll blast him," he yelled. "And next time, I won't miss." The next day, Amos took the dogs away for a long hunting trip. Todd watched as they drove off. All winter, he missed his friend. Big Mama the Owl told him things would be different after hunting season. She explained that dogs and foxes were meant to be enemies. But Todd was positive it would make no difference that he was a fox. Copper was his best friend, no matter what. The night Copper returned, Todd crept quietly over to visit his old friend. They had both grown a lot and looked quite different. "It's good to see you, Todd." But you shouldn't be here, warned Copper. You're going to get us both into a lot of trouble. Look, I just wanted to see you, the fox explained. We're still friends, aren't we? Those days are over, said Copper. I'm a hunting dog now. Todd couldn't believe what he was hearing. How could his friend have forgotten all the great times they had shared? Sadly, Todd turned to leave. But Chief had woken up and was barking loudly. Amos ran onto the porch with his rifle. "It's that fox again! After him, boys!" yelled the hunter. Todd ran for his life as Copper and Chief chased him. When Copper finally cornered the fox, he suddenly had second thoughts. "Todd, I don't want to see you get killed," he said. "I'll let you go this one time." True to his word, when Amos caught up to Copper, the hound led the hunter in the wrong direction. Todd was relieved and overjoyed. Copper still cared about him. Unfortunately, Chief did not. The big dog caught sight of the fox. He chased him onto a bridge, but a train was coming. They were trapped. Thinking quickly, Todd lay between the rails. The train passed over him, but Chief was too slow. The train hit him and he fell into the river. Copper raced toward Chief. The dog was lying on the rocks, hurt but alive. "Chief! Chief!" called Copper. "Oh no, it's my fault," he thought as he helped the injured dog. Chief was like a father to him. Copper felt guilty and angry, but most of all he blamed Todd. As Amos planned revenge, Copper joined him. Copper looked up at the fox on the tracks and growled, "Todd, if it's the last thing I do, I'll get you for this," he vowed. Everything had changed that night. The fox and the hound went their separate ways. Widow Tweed decided that the safest place for Todd would be a game preserve where there was no hunting. She would miss Todd terribly, but at least he'd be far from Amos Slade and his rifle. Todd didn't like the forest preserve. It was big and scary, and he was lonely. Luckily, Big Mama the Owl knew another fox who lived there. She was named Vixie. Todd had never seen anyone so beautiful. "I just know you're going to love the forest," Vixie told him. "Let me show you around." Todd agreed, thrilled to have made a new friend. In another area of the game preserve, Amos, with Copper by his side, stared at a sign that read "No hunting." But that didn't stop him for a second. As soon as Copper picked up Todd's scent, Amos sent out some traps. Before long, Todd stepped in one, barely missing its snapping jaws. Todd and Vixie ran away quickly. Panting, Todd looked behind him and saw Amos and Copper face to face with a giant bear. Todd watched as the hound tried to protect Amos by jumping on the bear and grabbing his neck with its teeth. But the bear swatted Copper with his huge paw. Todd couldn't abandon his old friend. He jumped on the bear's back, biting his ears. The bear roared with pain, threw the fox off, and then followed Todd onto a low bridge. But the bear's weight caused the log to break, and Todd and the bear tumbled down toward a waterfall below. Weak and breathless, Todd looked up to see Amos pointing a rifle at him. "Todd?" Copper called out to his old friend. The fox barely looked up. Then Copper bravely stood over Todd. The dog's eyes pleaded with Amos. Finally, the hunter lowered his rifle. "Oh, well, come on, boy," said Amos. "Let's go home." Before he left, Copper turned back to look at Todd one last time. They knew they'd always be friends, no matter what. And that's our story. I hope you liked it. Make sure you like and subscribe and share with your friends. Bye until next time.